Welcome back to WCS Summer live from Kyiv, Ukraine. And it's time. I don't know any other way to say it, Roddy. We're going to have China versus Germany. It's going to be time going up against ShoWTimE in a Terran versus Protoss. That should be pretty damn good.
A really unique matchup. Two players that have never played against each other in a competitive environment. Obviously, ShoWTimE looked absolutely stunning yesterday in his PvZ games against Scarlet. I thought that was very hopeful for him. Of course, this is a completely different ball game. Had a little chat with him as well. I was like, you know, in the past you've struggled a little bit with Terran, right?
Yeah.
And then he said something that really stood out to me. He's like, yes, in tournaments. He's like, I've actually always done okay in practice against Terran. He's like, there's just something about playing against Terran in tournaments. Often I don't have the same level as I have at home. And he's like, PvT, it's a deadly matchup, right? Like one Widowmine drop that catches you off guard, a move out you don't spot. And Terran can actually end games against Protoss very quickly. Even though we all know Protoss is damn good against Terran, that doesn't mean that you don't have to be on point, because you really do as Protoss.
Yeah, it can be very momentum-based, and you know, we've described ShoWTimE many times as the wall demourer, as his nickname would suggest. You know, who else is pretty good at building walls? China with the Great Wall, man. So we'll see if he can set up some of that defense himself here, time, and be ready for those war prisms that have been oh so deadly versus Terran, with those charge lots being warped in on the other side of the map. Or just in general how he plays, even though Time is kind of known for playing, you know, fairly standard for the most part, but extremely well, as is ShoWTimE. All right, here we go. First map getting on the way here on Acropolis, starting at the bottom right-hand side of the map, playing as the blue Terran. It is China's time.
Looking to repeat his best performance of all time in a WCS event, which of course was the semifinals in Montreal. This man has won WCS events in the past, but it's been a while. He wants to get back on top. It is Europe's best Protoss, ShoWTimE.
Going for a scat all around here, around the bottom left-hand side, making sure there are no shenanigans happening in the game. Number one already. And ShoWTimE is, it's about as basic but perfectly executed as it gets with these guys. It kind of reminds me of Rain. Remember Rain? Like, he was just like the guy that was playing like standard as you need to. A lot of the time it felt like maybe overly defensive too, but somehow it worked out. And I feel like the greatest evolution that ShoWTimE has had is knowing when to attack.
Yep. And I also think that these days he does switch it up a little bit more, right? For the longest time, we always said ShoWTimE never all-ins. That's not true anymore, guys. He has got a couple of cheeky builds up his sleeve, and that's what you want to have as well as Protoss, because that's one of the real strengths of Protoss. Protoss can end games really quickly as well with War Prism attacks, with a lot of gate waves. We've seen that time and time again, so it is really important for Time, our Chinese Terran, that he keeps a close eye on what ShoWTimE is doing. But so far, thought it seems like game one is going to be rather slow and steady, and I would love to see that. I really think that so far in this tournament, this matchup has delivered, man. Like, you go back to yesterday, I think Mana against Special was awesome. Special had a couple great games against Hearthstone as well. I think Hellraiser had a really cool series against Kalazur on this stage. So this matchup, this tournament so far, I think it has delivered.
I mean, even across multiple matchups, you know, like sometimes we get these WCS brackets and we're like, oh, these quarterfinals are looking amazing, and then like it's like 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. Like so far we've had so many close and epic series. Even last series was a 3-1, but the games were not short ones.
No, the game on King's Cove as well, we're sitting upstairs. I was joking a little bit with Scarlet and sort of. And you know how pro gamers are, like at minute 4, they're like, yeah, Reynor's super dead. And I'm like, oh my god, like stop it. They're like, no, he's dead. And then like a little bit later, I'm like, what did you guys say? Because I thought Reynor was winning. But then suddenly it really did look like Special won that King's Cove game. And they look at me like, told you, Roddy, he's super dead. And I was like, okay, I'm with you guys. And then Reynor somehow ends up winning the game. So it's been really fun. Hopefully you guys at home had fun so far as well. Let's talk about these build order start, because we've got the Twilight counter as an opening here coming out of ShoWTimE. I'm expecting the defensive Blink opening here, right? Because I think that's just a very strong, all-around solid build on Acropolis.
Yeah, absolutely, especially for somebody like ShoWTimE. Again, we mentioned how good he is defensively, even preventing the scouts super well here already on this map. Definitely one of the easier maps to do this on, as you can block that one pathway here where the Reaper could jump in into the main base with a core. And even building up a little bit of a wall here around the expansion. Not letting anything in so far. The wall, man, the wall is going up already around this expo.
Yeah, you got to be careful in this matchup about the Hellion openings. They have been quite popular over the last 5 to 6 months. That's a pretty quick second barracks, by the way, by time. There's going to be a hallucinated Phoenix flying into the main base, and ShoWTimE will get a pretty good scout off here because he sees the starport, but more importantly, he sees there is a tech lab with that starport as well. So he's like, all right, this could be Banshees, but a little more likely is that this is going to be a Raven, and this is starting to look like one of these traditional Raven tank builds, where there's a good chance that ShoWTimE wants to, that Time wants to hit a pretty strong timing attack, no pun intended. As we can see, that depot was a little bit late. Indy's like, gosh, talk about it. There's a depot. It's late. It's like, yeah, you know, Time is not perfect. Made a little slip up, perhaps feeling the nerves a little bit here as well. Thought it is a quarterfinals after all.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe spotting that it's a Raven kind of discourages ShoWTimE a little bit more from going into Colossus, or
yeah, maybe
because of the interference matrix, which looks really strong?
But I think since this is a big, wide open map, I kind of prefer the Zest kind of style of playing anyway, right? Where you get a lot of Stalkers and you get this crazy amount of Zealots. Yeah. Eventually double Forge, maybe opening up with single Forge at first.
You stay only on 3 gases for a long time.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you even go for that 4th Nexus.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a perfect map for it. Like, you don't really want to do that kind of stuff on the tiny maps like New Park. I think then it becomes a little bit dangerous. It could work, but I think this is a map, especially because it's so good for War Prisms as well, right? You look at that main base of Terran players, you're like, yep, that's a very juicy potential target.
And yeah, he does start charge here. ShoWTimE getting ready for this. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw a lot of gateways here starting in a second as well, as he's already saturating the 3rd base pretty nicely. Wow. That was fast.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that Time didn't try to kill any workers at all. Didn't open up with a medevac drop, didn't really open up with any Hellion commitment at all.
Only 1 unit died so far.
Yeah, that's the 2nd Forge already, so it's a very slow and steady start. Now, don't get me wrong, the push that Time is going to make is going to be very powerful. That's going to be a lot of bio units, and because he didn't throw away any additional units, his push is going to be even bigger. But if ShoWTimE gets a counterattack in with a couple of Zealots, or he gets his Blink Stalkers in a good position, if ShoWTimE defends the first move out of Time without taking any economic damage, he's going to be in an absolutely phenomenal position.
How would you use the Raven actually during the push? Because you got a couple different choices here between auto turrets, interference matrix on the Immortal, or maybe anti-armor missile. I guess anti-armor on the charge lot.
Absolutely. I think anti-armor missile is the right choice here. I mean, auto turrets can be very useful because they can be tanky, but a lot of Protoss players, the moment that is being used, they'll just run away, and then suddenly these auto turrets won't really contribute anymore to the battle. This is a really good scout. I'm actually kind of surprised that ShoWTimE doesn't have a couple of Stalkers here, right? Like, if you have Blink Stalkers, they should be there right now. They should be delaying this push. They should be shaving off units. Yeah. He's sending out the Stalkers right now, but in my opinion, thought this is a tiny bit too late.
Maybe because he has only 6. Like, he transitioned out of Stalkers. Like, he opened that as that to be safe, and then he knows that if he gets like Widowmine dropped or something, he'll get more. But he transitioned out of Stalkers pretty quick, so maybe he thought that 6 was not enough to really dedicate to that. But he's actually warping a little bit more right now, building up his Zealot count. You want to buy a little bit of time here before the Terran can finally siege. ShoWTimE, how quickly does he engage here?
Oh, that's a really good anti-armor missile as well. A lot of these Zealots do get attacked. And look at the mines. The mines are now in a pretty dangerous position. That's another stim. I love the tank in the backline as well. And I just don't really like how ShoWTimE has done this so far. But let's see if we can get a very good fight here.
And I love that, by the way, Time. Back at home, he loaded up a medivac, used Ignite Afterburners to send that across the map a little bit quicker. ShoWTimE finally going to engage just before anti-armor missile dissipates here. He snipes the medivac. ShoWTimE is going to get the cleanup right after losing his Nexus. And he already started the 4th one anyway.
Yeah, but there is a little drop in the main base as well. That was pretty even in the end. Let's see if this drop can get anything done. Recall being used as well, so a few... What? Okay, 2 Stalker recall. But hey, it's something, right? I mean, that's a very interesting trade that we just saw, guys. Yeah. I actually think it's all right for Time, even though he's still down in supply, but he's building his 3rd CC on location. Yeah, he lost a lot of units, but he got the Nexus. And I think sniping the Nexus basically forces ShoWTimE to stay on this stack a little bit longer. And Zealot Stalker is absolutely awesome as long as the armies are small. But if Time suddenly shows up with a 140, 150 supply army, then I'm not sure if Zealots and Stalkers are still going to get the job done.
And ShoWTimE is still on only 3 gases, so especially after losing that 1 Nexus, I think that's going to last a little bit longer. He did start 2-2, he had enough gas for that because he's going so Zealot heavy. But I feel like after holding this, he's going to feel comfortable to finally go for a War Prism soon and then start moving across the map, being a little bit more active and being the one that tries to deal some economic damage on the other side of the map. By the way, those hallucinated Phoenix scouts, they've been so consistent. We see yet another one to try and scout the timing on that third base, the saturation and everything.
Yeah, might actually drag some friendly fire here with one of these Widow Mines that was burrowed. Good scout here, of course, by ShoWTimE once again, like you pointed out. There we do have our Templar archive, so that's our first real tech building coming out of ShoWTimE. And the upgrades are big, guys, but I think you don't need just upgrade advantage. You're going to need a numbers advantage as well. Right now, Time's army is actually bigger. And now look at all these Widow Mines. That's going to be amazing for our Chinese turn play against all the Zealots. I'm very worried here for ShoWTimE, man. I do like the counterattack. I think he needs to create a little bit of chaos, and then he somehow needs to get a very good fight. He has 8 Stalkers, but I don't know where they are, but he's going to need them against those Liberators.
Yeah, he's going to regroup here. ShoWTimE still looking to try and basically buy a little bit of time before he finally engages, but the Chinese player here is pressuring very quickly. Sieging so fast, actually. He leapfrogged extremely quickly here between the Widow Mines and the Liberators. It's going to be so tricky for ShoWTimE to engage. He might want to try to create some friendly fire here on the zombie.
What are all the Zealots doing on the bottom side of the map? I feel like he was setting up a flank or a counterattack.
He picked them up with a Prism.
Yeah, but I mean, he's going to be in a lot of trouble here because if he loses this base, the base on the south side is going to be in a lot of danger as well. I think ShoWTimE knows that he needs to go for it. I love the unburrow there by Time. Time is playing an absolutely solid game so far, and this is the first time that maybe he's going to be in a little bit of trouble against that Prism.
I think ShoWTimE needs to evacuate that base maybe, but he might feel like he needs to defend it.
The thing is, we're going to get a little bit of picture-in-picture with the Zealots in the main base. That's awesome and all, but can he clean up this Terran army? One of the Liberators got picked off. Few more Zealots getting warped in, but there are so many Widow Mines still in the mix. Most of the Zealots disappear. Can Time get the Nexus? Yes, he does. But can he get the 4th Nexus as well at the bottom? That's the big question here.
Yeah, I don't even know if he knows about it just yet. He hasn't scouted that location. Might be able to sniff it out. The War Prism on the other side was killed, and the counter-attack was defended. Oh, actually, I'm sieging those Liberators kind of by themselves here. 2 of them are going to get sniped. And I mean, Time lost 15 SCVs on his side of the map, but sniping that Nexus was really nice here, obviously. And now we see more upgrades starting from ShoWTimE. He restarts another War Prism.
I must say, ShoWTimE has done a really good job in keeping his probes alive, right? He has lost 2 Nexi, but he hasn't really lost that many probes throughout this game.
He lost 1 probe total this game, which was at the start of the game. That's it.
No, that actually is something that really keeps him in this one, because if he would have lost the Nexus and 10 probes, then I think this game is over. Now ShoWTimE still got a pretty decent chance. One Liberator is very low in HP.
Time just scanned the 4th base, so he knows exactly like that it's there, how much probes there are, and I think he might prioritize this in a second if he wants to.
Don't forget, by the way, there's still no 2-2 on the way for Time. Well, ShoWTimE is already getting to 3-3. ShoWTimE wants to get one more Liberator. He does get the Liberator. I mean, if ShoWTimE doesn't take a super bad fight here, he's absolutely still in it. With more Zealots showing up as well, Time is hanging on to a tiny supply advantage. But Time needs to start finding some real economic damage.
Yeah, ShoWTimE is down to 2 Immortals. He lost 3 of the ones that he had made before. And I think that's really weakening the damage here in his army. Time is using so well these Liberators here, and every single time he engages, pulls back.
I'm starting to like it for ShoWTimE though, because look at this Zealot counterattack. I think there is some potential for this as well. And these 3-3 upgrades, guys. 3-3 is going to be done before 2-2 is ever done as well. Time cannot afford to lose more SCVs. You got to be careful there with the friendly fire as well. ShoWTimE has lost Nexi, but he hasn't lost probes, and I really think that's what's slowly but steady giving him a really good position in this game.
Yeah, another warp in on the top right-hand side. I think ShoWTimE wants to keep Time busy on his side of the map here as much as possible while he saturates the 5th base. And I mean, when you got 3-3 against 1-1, it feels like you don't even need Colossus or High Templars. Like, it'd be better if you have them, but he doesn't really have the gas for it right now, and he kept on losing some important Nexus. He's still building up his probe count, actually. 75. Oh my god, ShoWTimE's economy is gonna go completely out of control here in a second.
He's got the entire left side of the map. Now, I do want to say, as we take a little bit of a look at the first-person view
the Prism. There is a Prism just on the right side of where he's looking right now. He might be looking for it because he sees only 1 Zealot there, and he didn't see any pylon in the area. And units came from there before.
I mean, +3 armor is complete. I mean, this is going to get dropped. Now, I must say, if there is one way you can actually kind of ignore a massive upgrade deficit against Zealots, it's Widow Mine Ghost, right? You land a couple EMPs, you get a couple good Widow Mine shots. There is still some hope here. Time's army is very big. I wouldn't mind if ShoWTimE gives up this base. I don't think you really need to take this fight, but he may have enough confidence in his upgrades.
Yeah, there's 3 ghosts total here. All of them have EMP available. 2-2 about to finish. Zealot counter-attack once again here. ShoWTimE will sack this base. I like this choice. Second Robo on the way as well for Robo Bay. He wants to transition into Colossus, which is the right choice against this ghost. ShoWTimE chooses to engage because he thinks that Time's looking across the map, but he's not. He was ready, lands a big EMP and forces ShoWTimE back here.
This is actually really sick. This is 3-3 Protoss against 1-1 Terran, guys. Time is trying to do whatever he can. The Zealots are going to be really, really hard to clean up on the other side of the map. But if Time gets 2 bases here, that's where things start getting a little bit dicey, especially because ShoWTimE is still super low on gas. ShoWTimE makes the tough call to sacrifice this Nexus as well. At the same time, though, more Zealots going ham on the other side of the map. Time did save up some reinforcements to deal with this. TvP this tournament thought it's delivering once again.
It's been great so far. Now ShoWTimE going into Disruptor production. He's supply blocked here quite a bit. He lost a bunch of pylons and 2 Nexus just now, so need to replace that. We've got follow-up upgrades here starting from Time, and you might just be happy with the damage he dealt here. Just go home, regroup for a little bit, remake a bunch of Ghosts and Liberators, and then go for another assault here in a second. But we've seen what ShoWTimE can make happen with some of these Disruptors. Time's going to have to be on point with that.
Are you happy with the Disruptors, or would you have preferred Colossus here?
I would have preferred Colossus, but that's because I'm a total scrub with Disruptors. I think ShoWTimE actually is extremely good with them. So
I'm with you because he has the 3-3 upgrades as well, right? Now, don't get me wrong, guys. Disruptors are phenomenal against mines, and there are a lot of mines in the mix. Oh, this Purification Nova is going to connect, though, with a lot of units. So that's a big first hit. But the problem is he doesn't have any consistent damage. So now he needs to run away until he has another shot or more Disruptors start showing up. The 2-2 upgrades are done, but there we do have 2 more Disruptors. But an excellent scan by Time will reveal them.
yeah, 1 more Disruptor shot with completely here. Time pulled back exactly when he needed to. Actually, 1 more early one here. A little bit surprising from ShoWTimE. Maybe he's panicking a little bit. He needs to regroup. There's still Zealots on the other side of the map doing damage against those SCVs. ShoWTimE needs to reinforce into the fight. He needs to hold on here. Time with a massive force here, trading as much as he can, landing some ENP. Yeah, the Widow Mines haven't even burrowed yet.
Oh, well, they were burrowed, but they will get taken care of very quickly. Most of the bios seem to have disappeared, but there's still a Liberator, 1 Ghost, 1 Marine. It's an incredibly close fight. In the end, it seems like ShoWTimE, with all of his reinforcements, barely has enough. Still dealing some damage on the other side of the map as well. Keeping this fort base alive was crucial, though, because if ShoWTimE lost that, he would have been in a world of trouble. He immediately gets the 5th. I mean, that was a wild fight, though. That was a very, very wild fight.
And he's expanding at the top right now. What is this? Musical Nexi? Like, making them all over the place.
Time is actually loading up a couple of Medavacs, which means he has very few units at home. These Liberators are not sieged up. I don't think he's expecting this attack from ShoWTimE. You gotta use those Liberators. Libs are very good against Disruptors, zoning them away. Good EMP there, actually. Wow. Oh my goodness, he picked up those bio units as well at the last moment. Well done here by Time. Really good job avoiding that one as well, with only losing 1 or 2 Marines in the end. 1 more Disruptor will bite the dust. Where did those drops go? I saw him pick up bio units, or am I crazy? Yeah, there you go.
It's at the bottom. I like this because I think that base on the left-hand side is a little bit more exposed, and if he threatens the one at the top at the same time, it's going to be very hard for ShoWTimE to split his units well enough to defend in both locations. But that one Zealot, it does the job here. It spots what could be coming.
Well, there is no vision at all, right? In the left bottom side. It's so hard to see these things on the minimap. ShoWTimE has no idea about this drop.
Is he recall?
No, he just used recall on those 2 Disruptors in the previous fight. So there's not going to be any recall.
Just give up that base. But he's not evacuating with the probes. He's losing more probes than he has the entire game right now.
A couple of Disruptor shots will connect a tiny bit. Zealots coming in from the right side. I do think ShoWTimE will win this fight, but at the cost of losing 21 probes and potentially this base as well. Now, I guess the Zealots will save it, but that is a low HP Nexus at this point. But ShoWTimE did get a victory in the middle of the map, though. Man, what a game already. Yeah. I'm loving it. These quarterfinals are delivering.
Something that ShoWTimE has going in his favor is that there is no drilling clause. So he doesn't need leftover observers to make sure he can clean those Widow Mines after they've detonated. Because it's not like he has many of them either. He's only on 2 observers right now. But yeah, just running around right now, trying to make sure he buys some time, regrouping with the Disruptors. That was such a great drop on the left-hand side that time, really. Like, if he had attacked with everything at the front, that would have been such a weaker move in comparison. And he knew that there was no recall, by the way, because he saw the Disruptors recall right in front of him.
Of course, another starport being added. ShoWTimE getting very adventurous here with a couple of these Disruptors. Gets big shots this time and suddenly takes the 30-40 supply lead. But there is no Warp Prism here, but he is setting up an engagement. But fighting near a planetary with Stalkers and Zealots is very dangerous. So you got to be careful. Hey, he has an observer on top of this army, and he just saw Time pick up all these Medavacs. Look at the minimap. Look at that army of ShoWTimE. It's on the hunt. Even though it's only 6-7 Stalkers, could get a big snipe off.
I like that choice. He wants to bring that army out of position here and then maybe engage into the planetary fortress. But again, he doesn't really need to. Like, ShoWTimE is got a well-established economy on his side of the map. Still on 69 walkers, despite losing up to 29 probes already in this game.
Obviously, there's no advanced ballistics, and that makes these Liberators a little bit weaker. This random army of ShoWTimE is getting a few SCVs as well. At the same time, he's setting up a big move out here on the top side. I'm a little bit scared for ShoWTimE that he's doing all of this without a War Prism. He sends these Disruptors forward, will connect with quite a few of these Marines there, gets a Marauder in the end as well. So some pretty damn good trades by ShoWTimE. And even though we maybe felt that Colossus were the right choice, these Disruptors thought they've been having a very big impact in this game.
Yeah, and also there's not many ghosts from Time. He's really struggling. They can't be everywhere either. They're at the bottom. He's going to defend in that location. But on the other side, it's explosions all over the place. SCVs dying left and right. And the supply difference here is starting to really be felt in that game as ShoWTimE keeps on expanding in the meantime. Remade the Nexus on the bottom left-hand side.
Yeah, the nice thing for ShoWTimE as well is that he basically lost his fort and he took another fort eventually, right? And that means he has way more minerals left. If you look at the mineral lines of Time is really starting to run out of resources. This third base is almost completely dry. Obviously in the main and natural, there is absolutely nothing left. So this base at 6 o'clock is crucial. Time did manage to sort of secure it, but ShoWTimE is not going to wait for a very long time until he tries to do something about it. And we're looking at 6 Disruptors there, Todd.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those games where he would have needed Drilling Claws and Advanced Ballistics more than what he has now. ShoWTimE with the Disruptors, fireworks all over the place here.
And now he's going to go.
Purification Novas connect, and Time is just going to tap out. ShoWTimE with a Disruptor show here in game number 1. Gets a clean victory.
Very, very well done. I thought it was a really cool back and forth game. I was a bit surprised about the start from both players. Actually, Time not making any initial aggression, and ShoWTimE, despite the fact that he opened up with Blink, he kind of just let that initial army march to the other side of the map. But I loved a couple of the very complicated and tough decisions that ShoWTimE made when it came to sacking bases. And I think the most telling thing is, like you pointed out as well, he lost to Nexi, but he only lost 1 probe, like 14 or 15 minutes into the game.
For a long time.
And that's why he was able to just rebuild those bases, rebuild those armies, and keep on making a couple of those ballsy engagements and those crazy trades.
You know what really makes us appreciate this, by the way? We play Protoss, and we would have lost like 30 probes by this time. Like, it's... I don't even know how that's possible that he lost 1 single probe, which was the initial scout, I think, that was on the map. I guess he stayed close enough to his middle lines, and he always prioritized the right thing and made a lot of mature choices as well.
Yep. I love how he a couple of times analyzed that Terran army, and he's like, okay, I can fight until everything is like, if everything is walking, right? The mines are not burrowed yet, the Liberator is not sieged up, then I'll fight, but the moment everything was set up, he disengaged. At the same time, I think our Chinese Terran made a lot of really good moves with his Widow mines, because the Zealots would run forward, they tried to trigger the mines, and he would unburrow the mines. There was a lot of very cool micro on both sides, and I really think that both players just played excellent there, but I think a couple of those Purification Novas, perhaps in the end, they were a tiny bit too big. I think this double drop that we had on the left side, it was awesome, but the victory that ShoWTimE took in the middle of the map during all of that, I think was even more impactful, right? So yeah, even though Time finally got probes with that drop, I think that's when ShoWTimE really started to take control of this game. And I love the counterattacks, of course, with the Zealots as well. But that's what you're supposed to do as a Protoss player. If you have an upgrade advantage, send those Zealots in. You don't need to babysit them. You know they'll wreak havoc.
Getting spoiled with the quality of those games for Rotterdam, and it seems like it continues.
Let's see what King's Cove has in store for us as we have loaded in to game 2 of this quarterfinal. On the right bottom side, we're looking at the main base of a Chinese Terran player. It is Time.
His opponent in the red, representing Germany, it is ShoWTimE.
And ShoWTimE it's been so far in the games that we have seen of him in the knockout, well, not really knockout bracket, the elimination bracket, I should say, their final bracket. Of course, the games yesterday against Scarlet, if you guys missed them, I think they were spectacular. They were some awesome PVZs. Sometimes you look at the score, you're like, 3-0, that's it. But I honestly think those games are worth watching. They were very fun, incredibly high-paced, kind of similar to this first game of this quarterfinal, Todd, because that was a very high-paced game as well. It started off slow. Only a single unit went down in the first 5-6 minutes, but once they started, they never stopped.
And ShoWTimE, for actually, as long as I can remember, he was really known for his Protoss versus Zerg, but I feel like he's improved so much versus Terran. Like, not that he was ever really bad at it, but it's been a tricky matchup for him at a few moments in his career. I keep on trying to stay away from the word time. It's really hard. So I'm running out of options here and there. But in the last WCS Spring, he actually beat Clem in the round of 16, but then lost to Special in the quarterfinals. So definitely showed that you know, he could bleed in that matchup, and that sometimes it was going to be difficult against some of these really good players. But now, so far against Time, he's looked great. Not that it wasn't a hard-fought game, it was, but towards the end, it looked very one-sided. He got a big supply differential and used it super well.
Yeah, it's funny because I think one of the most memorable games of 2016 was, of course, that series ShoWTimE had at the global finals against Beyond, right? Everybody was raging about his PvP back then. They're like, oh my goodness, ShoWTimE's so good at controlling all these spellcasters, all this splash damage. But after that, ShoWTimE actually developed a little bit of a rivalry with Kalazur. And I mean, I love Diego. I think he's fantastic, but Beyond, the world champ. But Kalazur actually managed to defeat ShoWTimE multiple times in a row. And at that point, we're like, is there something wrong with ShoWTimE's PvT? But like I said, I had a little chat with him. He's like, I never really felt it was the matchup. He's like, it's just sometimes at tournaments, I'm not able to play my best. I don't know why it is. He's like, I just don't feel
He had to get him back because of the World Cup.
yeah. I don't know about that. Don't want to go into football discussions in the quarterfinal stuff. But he's just like, sometimes I just don't feel as on point as I do at home. And he's like, then the matchup that it hurts me the most is PvT. And I'm really familiar with that, man. Like, I'm always excited after a week of casting. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get back home. I'm so excited to play some games. And then, especially against Terran, that's the one matchup where I lose against everyone in my first 10, 15 games. It's just like, I'm too slow. I'm not on point. A Widowmine drop, a Liberator, a Cloak Banshee. There are so many things that can ruin your game early on. And Protoss has all the tools to deal with that, but you need to be on point.
Yeah, and ShoWTimE is good at that, for sure. As we see it in a lot of these games, this time actually he opened for Stargates going straight into an Oracle here. One of the things that I appreciate the most also about these Stargate openers is how good everybody has become at dodging those Widow Mines, at playing, you know, that little mind game in the start, making sure they don't get blown up. It very rarely happens, and like when it does, usually they will find some damage. And even if it does happen, which like used to be an absolute disaster.
Middle of the map, Todd, what have you done? Get this man out of here. I want a new co-commentator.
You know, every time I say that, this happens, so whatever. I'm done.
That's actually a really smart Widowmine placement, obviously, by Time. I'm with you, though. Like,
you know, that pro was scouting for that, by the way. And it feels like Time almost stayed there with the Widowmine to show it and be like, oh yeah, this is the only one you need to focus on and worry about. Meanwhile, in the middle of the map, there was one more.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
But yeah, like I was saying also, I still think like Protosses have gotten so good at recovering from there. Like once upon a time, if this happens, you would just like borderline want to leave. It was like a failed DT rush. It was a disaster.
Look at how quick, by the way, this stim pack is. It reminds me a tiny bit of the build that Special showed us as well, where he just moved out with all those Marines and he suddenly showed up with really quick stim.
Wait, you see this? He burrowed?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
he's going to try to bait the Stargate units.
Exactly. I think that's exactly what it is. So this is super smart play by Time. Look at that Phoenix, guys. That Phoenix is about... I think it's about to fly into 2 more mines. It almost feels that maybe ShoWTimE is expecting this a little bit.
He was waiting for Ignite after burners.
Okay, that's a dead Phoenix as well. Whoa, how did it not fire twice? That's crazy.
It's too fast.
Yeah, ShoWTimE knows, I think, about the second one as well. Now, Time should have picked up the other one, by the way. That
he picked up the wrong one.
No, I mean, this one is revealed, right? But
yeah.
It would have been sick if he gets the other one.
Oh, not like this.
But I mean, this is actually dealing quite a bit of damage. ShoWTimE will end up losing one more probe. Like, this is obviously not bad defense by ShoWTimE. He's still up 5 workers. But look at that stim, Todd. Stim is almost done. And I don't think ShoWTimE is aware of this at all. And that's pretty damn quick stim.
And he already got combat shield on the way as well here. It was the double tech lab from Time, who's going Mulder heavy.
And look at that Viking. I mean, that Viking is going to fly into a very exposed main base. ShoWTimE has no battery here. He's going to be forced once again to bring a lot of his units back. And this should normally allow Time to use his forces to start marching to the other side of the map. Because even the Oracle is at home, Todd.
Yeah, ShoWTimE so far has shut down this aggression here pretty nicely on his side of the map.
That's a lot of bio.
Yeah, the only big hiccup was losing his Oracle across the map, which also means that because he's kept the other one at home, there's been no tag on this army here. If this gets undetected on the other side of the map, it could be scary, but obviously he could still throw down a couple stasis wards, just like this one is doing right now.
Okay,
that could be very bad. Like, those times send a Marine ahead to demine the field.
Well, that's going to be indeed very impactful, because if the entire army runs into a stasis, then this entire strategy is kind of in jeopardy. I like that ShoWTimE is bringing his units out as well. He's like, you set up a trap for me, I'll set up a trap for you. The stim forward, the stasis will connect with 8 or 9 of these Marines, and that's actually going to make the life of ShoWTimE so much easier. But there is still quite a bit of DPS in this tiny Terran army.
You want to bait me into a Widow Mine? I'll bait you into a Stasis Ward.
That's actually a brilliant play. Otherwise, I don't see how ShoWTimE holds that, man.
Yeah, Colossus production now starts. He's got charge on the way. This army is still quite scary, but by the time it's out of there, I think ShoWTimE will have enough, especially with the shield battery there. He needs to be in position though. Force Fields dance.
Oh, I love that grenade as well. You don't often see Reapers have a big impact in battles, but that was a really cool grenade. There's a Widow Mine that's going to be thrown down in the mix as well. The Zealot won't absorb the shot. Phoenix flies forward. There is still so much DPS in this Terran army. The Immortal goes down, the Sentries goes down, and I actually think that time just wins the game here.
Wow. His micro in that last fight was incredible. That was...
That Reaper. Did you see that?
Yeah,
grenade?
but even the way he moved his army out of range of where the Protoss army could shoot and be safe, that was amazing. Like he kind of made the Protoss army kind of be stuck behind the Nexus. That reminded me of, like, you know, all those Terrans that micro to the most bomber, beyond, always so good at these moves.
I thought it was a pretty brilliant strategy by Time. Obviously, he got a little bit fortunate with that first mine connecting with the Oracle. I mean, he was looking for it, but there is no guarantee you get it. But I think after that, Time did an absolutely stunning job in keeping ShoWTimE busy, distracted on his side of the map. And by the time that ShoWTimE realized what was going on, yes, he got a good stasis trap off, but the rest of that Protoss army was still kind of underwhelming. There was simply nothing to really match the DPS of that Terran army. And hey, if he builds like 4 or 5 shield batteries at his third base, he has to worry about his natural, right? So it's really hard to split up your units, because ShoWTimE was working with very little, while Time was investing a lot in that army, and that was just a very powerful army. I love the way that Time played it. From the Widowmine drop, the Liberator, the Viking, just everything to distract ShoWTimE and get that force to the other side of the map.
You know what really impresses me, though? I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go there anymore. That poor Oracle. Oh, God.
How good everybody became
so
in avoiding those Widow Mines?
Yeah.
I was joking as well. It's like, Todd, I guess you haven't been watching my stream a lot lately, because people always wonder, why do you never open Oracle?
No,
that's the reason, guys.
No, nowadays it's crazy. Like, so many games that I tune in and watch from, like, really good Protosses, they just never fly into a Widow Mine, like, for like the longest time. Even though they are Widow Mines, they still go across the map, they'll fly around, they'll poke here and there. They kind of know what locations are like the most popular. They kind of know like how you can hide them behind like a refinery or a command center, and they do so well with it. And then the moment I say that, boom, he like flies in the center and there's a Widow Mine.
You know what I love is that there is a little meta between Protoss and Terran players in general about where you put that first mine if you're trying to get lucky.
You study the replays and stuff.
But for a while you would put them in the middle, but then it's like, no, they're not going to fly to the middle because they know there could be a mine. So they put it in really stupid spots, and then sometimes the stupid spot would somehow connect with an Oracle, because Protoss players, they don't look at their Oracle while it's flying across the map. That simply takes too much time. So you kind of click it and you start focusing on that Oracle once it's close to the Terran forces. But now Protoss players are like, yeah, they always put their mines in very silly locations, so I can fly through the middle again. And Time is like, yeah, I picked up on that. So we're going back to the regular Widow Mine spots. It's good stuff. It's been a good quarterfinal so far. Let's see who's going to advance to the semifinals. I mean, the bottom side of this bracket. I mean, the top side is tough as well, guys. But the next quarterfinal, that's right, you guys heard it correct. It's going to be Neep versus Zero. The winner of that series will play against the winner of this one. It's going to be sick, as we have loaded into Kairos Junction. On the right bottom side, we're looking at the main base with the man that's representing Neilby. Wants to make it to his second WCS finals. It is time.
His opponent will change opener here because of what happened last game. Representing Germany, and in the reds, it is Tobias Sieber, also known as ShoWTimE. He's going for so long, I guess.
Alex is a man that's hard to
read. You said Dimauer.
Once again, guys, for the people at home, there's obviously Ukrainian commentary going out to the people here in the live audience, and sometimes we try to sync up the audios a little bit. But Alex, sometimes he does like the 12-second intro, and sometimes he does like the 45-second intro. And you're like, okay, I'm going to add another sentence. Another is like, I'm running out of things to say,
He
Alex.
likes to keep us on our toes.
That's a Cybercore before, and Nexus, by the way, coming out of our German portals. So there is a chance that we're going to see him open up with the Adept and maybe shade that first Adept to the other side of the map. Try to be annoying. We know that's a very popular opening for Protoss players on this map, especially if Time goes for that Reaper fast expand with the CC on the low ground. But I think we're going to see some Adept action here, Todd.
First blood has been drawn here. ShoWTimE, as soon as his Cybercore finishes, we'll get a better idea of exactly what he wants to go into. Do you think that the fact that his Oracle got blown up last game discourages him a lot more to go into that kind of opener in Oracles
I think
for the rest of the series?
I think he's a veteran. I think he can shake it off. I think he's just focused on this game right now. He's only thinking about K-Rolls. I don't think he's thinking about anything else. He's thinking about what he's seen so far, and he's thinking about how he's going to run his first Adept probably to the other side of the map. It's really important, by the way, that he fixes his rally point exactly as Indy is showing us right now to the left, because if you just rally your point right now to the other side of the map, it gets stuck in that little corner. I've tried this wall off once. I was like, hey, that's really cool what the pro gamers are doing. First Adept, stuck in my main base. I'm like, oh my god, never again will I try to be a pro gamer.
And the bunker already was going up from Time, so it feels like he kind of anticipated this was going to be coming. He's getting fully ready for his command center to finish safely.
A Robo opening, I think that's very smart. The thing is, he has a bunker, but he has no Marines yet, so I think that's one dead SCV at least. That should only be 2 hits. The other SCV wouldn't be able to complete the command center. It's going to be close, but
get
yes,
in!
It will. Hey, why did he lift it?
I think he wanted to load up the SCV inside, maybe, and then he realized, well, I can do that in the bunker. No!
Morph it into the Orbiter. What do you think about the Robo opening? I think since Kairos is a relatively tiny map, like it's a big map when you go to the left bottom or the right top, but from natural to natural, we all know about these very strong timing pushes that Terran can make on this map. So I think going for the Robo here, getting, well, he's actually opening up the Prism.
Yeah, I think ShoWTimE, with how good he is, and like, you know, it's kind of the same thing with the Disruptors earlier. If he opens with just a bunch of Adepts, without glaives, picks them up and goes for some SCV kills, he's going to be able to do really well in these kind of games, on this kind of map with the way there's the surface area around, you know, the expansion, for example, and where you can fly in.
I actually saw Mana do one of these openings as well, where I think you're going to potentially bring the Sentry as well, and maybe try to drop a force field on the ramp, and maybe force field the Terran players outside of their main base. There is a Raven though, it's just Stalkers for now, so maybe we'll get a little bit of Stalker pressure. He's going to work on these depots, and would obviously love to get a couple of these SCVs, but you got to be very careful as soon as the Raven comes out.
Interference Matrix also like can be very dangerous. Like there's a few nightmare scenarios when if you go for this, it can go really bad. But it looks like for now it's just going to be 4 Stalkers here to kill some SCVs around the natural instead of Adepts. I mean, Stalkers, they hit like trucks nowadays, don't they?
4 Stalkers is the magic number. You're going to be able to one-shot an SCV, so that's obviously very nice. Let's see, getting the cancel on the depot is already nice. Time is not going to be supply blocked, but if he gets another depot, at least he should be able to get a couple of these SCVs. I believe the Raven is flying to the other side of the map. No, actually he's not. Oh, okay. I think he was hoping to get the Interference Matrix, but then pick up the Stalkers right before it was casted. That was a pretty good little opening for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, tank production is in full effect. I wonder if Time will want to go for some sort of push here, because he's already on 2 barracks, and getting the third one going as well. He already has the 1 Raven that's going to build up on energy very nicely, so all he has to do is add like 1 or 2 medivacs. And as he's getting an eBay as well.
This is the kind of map, by the way, and with the openings that ShoWTimE has seen, I wouldn't mind if ShoWTimE goes charge before Blink here. That's not super common, but I think on some of these tiny maps, when you're really expecting a push, I like it, and that's what ShoWTimE is doing as well.
And that's because he's scouted well.
Yeah, absolutely, and this makes perfect sense, because he's expecting that move out of Time, and this is something that actually, like Verdi was doing that a while ago, and I was like, you know what, that crazy Russian Protoss, that's pretty smart. I like it. You don't always have to go Blink before charge. If you're really expecting a big push, charge has a much bigger impact on the big fights than Blink has.
And also this build is somewhat designed to counter a quick third base to really punish the lack of units, but ShoWTimE's like, you know what? I'll not make that third Nexus quickly. Instead, I'll go for gateways before, drop down the Templar archives, build up on my gas bank, and just go for a ton of Chancellors and Archons. And then when you move out, I'm going to steamroll you on the ground and crush you.
Yeah, he's going to get a couple of high Templars already as well, at least 1. Maybe he's just going to try to drop a feedback on the Raven. He's getting Storm. That's super quick Storm. 6-minute Storm. Alrighty, ShoWTimE.
Here's the thing about it. If you see Terran move out and you know that it's not going to be on time, you can just cancel it and go for Archon. So I think it's okay to go for that. I quite like it. Some sick observers, by the way, from ShoWTimE on the north and west side of the map give him so much vision for potential drops coming in.
I mean, this time army is eventually going to be quite big, but I think that Stalker harass actually delayed everything a little bit on the side of our Chinese Terran. I wonder if he's even going to pull some SCVs here, because it really feels the time is going to be pretty damn committed to it. He's not showing us any signs yet of going for another expand. He actually loads up 2 medevacs. This should eventually be spotted by those observers that you mentioned. This is going to be very interesting. I'm super curious to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, Time just scanned the main base of ShoWTimE, and he saw that the Templar Archive was researching something, so he should know that it's going to be a storm opener. So now he gets to choose. What does he do? Does he sit back, expand slowly? Does he move out and go for the attack? And it looks like he's going to move out and maybe threaten the third base while he drops the main base with the double medivac, but that's going to be spotted by the one observer. And by the way, feedback's going to be really scary, not just on the medivacs, but imagine if that Raven gets feedbacked.
Feedback is scary. What about Storm though, Todd? That's a lot of Marines, so it's not just feedback at this point, but a drop in the main base can really mess it up. Even though there is a medevac, excuse me, High Templar here, he could land a feedback. I really wouldn't mind a feedback. Feedback would be pretty good, but doesn't want to do it. He wants Storm instead.
Yeah, it wasn't that high on energy, I guess, that one medivac just yet. Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to drop there. There is a little bit of a force nearby.
The Widow Mines, though, they can get a couple of juicy connections. Look at that, in the middle of all these Zealots, softening up quite a bit. It will all come down to the Storms, guys. Can ShoWTimE get on top of these tanks? I love the way the Time did this, splitting only a couple of Marines to the left side, stimming immediately, putting pressure on that War Prism. Some really, really great plays so far by Time.
An anti-armor missile here would be massive inside of the Zealots. ShoWTimE still being very patient with the High Templars. 2 of them are in the War Prism. He's going to try to come in from behind for the feedback. Lands a huge storm. Anti-armor missile lands on a lot of these Zealots.
Yeah, I mean, the Auditor does go down, but most of the Marines have disappeared. But the reinforcements are arriving, though. Do we have another storm? Yes, we do. But where is the rest of the army of ShoWTimE? I think he still had a couple of units in the main base. He might need to bring those as well, even though these Zealots are going to be enough for now. And don't forget, ShoWTimE is 20 workers ahead, and he's got Storm available. He landed a couple of magnificent storms in that battle, Todd.
Beautiful storms.
Haven't we heard that before?
Well, we've heard beautiful force fields many times as well, yeah. But yeah, Blink's going to be the follow-up here from ShoWTimE. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Robo Bay as well eventually. He can add one more Forge if he wants to. How do you like the Blink as follow-up here?
I think it makes sense, because obviously right now his army is a little bit silly. It's very strong in engagements, but it's very weak in defending harass. ShoWTimE knows that he obviously has the better economy, so you want to make sure you can hang on to that better economy.
Yeah.
And what better way to defend against harassment than Blink?
And usually this is when you would see a Prism start to get active across the map a lot more, as it does fly inside of the main base here. Time has nothing in position, no turret to help even. There's going to be a big warp in.
Yeah, these Zealots definitely going to be able to achieve something, even though the Liberator will make their life a little bit easier.
This is the Ghost Academy, so we can already start thinking about either Colossus or Disruptor like we saw in the game 1.
I mean, the thing is, ShoWTimE knows that he tacked up very quickly, and he had a better economy. He survived. I like the double Robo Bay, but I really hope that he goes Colossus this game. Like, don't get me wrong, the Disruptors were awesome in game 1, but I think Colossus would have pretty much had the same impact. Marine's gonna stim. They might get... Oh my goodness, that was close. That was so close. But yeah, I'd really hope to see him go for Colossus here. I think you already have the splash damage with Storm. You've got the upgrades on the way as well. I think against every single unit that is out right now, other than maybe these Marauders, but even against Marauders with the upgrade advantage, Colossus are going to be really good.
Ooh, nice on Burrow. A little bit worried here for these bio units for a second. Some nice defensive cannons going up in the natural in the third base here from ShoWTimE. We'll see in a second whether it's Colossus or Disruptor.
I think Colossus. That would make more sense to me. But we'll see what our German toss decides to do.
These Templars have a lot of energy, by the way. All of them, or like some of them have 2 storms already, and some of them are building up towards more.
Yeah, I love the way that he's splitting up those Templars so far, even though like that's a bit trigger happy there, dropping a couple of those defensive storms. But he did land a feedback on one of these ghosts, and obviously the High Templar count is quite a bit higher. This fort base, though, is going to be in trouble. Do you really want to go up that ramp into mines and into Liberators?
It's going to come in from behind. Oh my god,
there's a lot of Widow Mines, though, Todd. There are a lot of Widow Mines. So that fort base is absolutely going to go down. Will Time just pick up those units and get out of there? I think if I'm Time, that's kind of what I want to do. No, he's going to land EMPs. He wants to fight. And actually, where are these High Templars suddenly?
Some of them are in the Prism. Some of them stayed a little bit behind. Yeah, that base is toast here.
And ShoWTimE floating a little bit of money. He lost a couple of islands there. This was a really good army movement by Time, and Time just got some massive victories over ShoWTimE. Suddenly, I'm starting to like Time is positioned a lot better. ShoWTimE didn't see that entire army. Now he will catch a glimpse of it with the Observer, but what is he going to do about it? He might get 1 or 2 medevacs from here. He gets 1, but
The high Templars! Oh my god.
Storm? Is he going to storm just
Feedbacks,
everything?
anything, pick up.
Oh, that's actually really funny. That's a cute little dance. With ShoWTimE, you need to get into the main base now, buddy. You really need to start getting into the main base. He picks up the High Templars again. That's actually really sick. He can land another Storm, and he lands a big one as well. Now he sends all of these Zealots in.
But there's another High Templar down there. So much potential here for damage, but it feels like every single time.
Good
The
storm.
Charon was a little bit too far away.
Good storms in the middle of the map as well, though Time actually bleeding out a lot of units now, but is ShoWTimE in position to deal with this? He needs to keep these probes alive. He's got a Disruptor in the mix as well. That one will get picked off almost immediately, but the remaining bits of the army is strong enough. Good snipe on that Prism, though, by Time.
Gonna blink forward here. Will ShoWTimE looking to try and deal as much damage to those medivacs, which are very hard to replace here at this stage in the game.
Oh my god, I love that interaction we just saw on the main base. That was really good play by ShoWTimE. The way, how much time he bought with those 2 High Templars and that
Okay,
Prism.
he's like, oh, those guys are still here, let's use them.
There is a cannon there, at least for one of these Liberators, but he's still going to have to pull the probes a little bit away. The army of ShoWTimE right now is definitely stronger than the army of Time. The upgrades are in favor of Germatos as well, and this is not a fight that I think Time really wants to take.
He got caught big time here.
Yep. I mean, the Zealots are getting some great surface area there. He's going to try to kite back and make this a slightly better fight. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a blink forward, man.
Yeah, he has enough, for sure. There's Charles coming in, that one Immortal as well. There's a Widowman in the middle of this army as well. Disruptor shots, he's going to almost connect. Oh, actually, it did connect.
Oh, and he gets the medevac as well, and that's going to be it. GG gets called. ShoWTimE, even though he was under a lot of pressure there in the end, stays calm, stays composed, lives up to his nickname of Demauer, and he will take the 2-1 lead in this quarterfinal. That was also a really cool game.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if the Disruptor connected because the medivacs were kind of covered if there were units down there, but then I saw like bodies explode everywhere under this medivac, so apparently I was able to achieve that.
You know, obviously it wasn't going great for Time at first. I think ShoWTimE had a really brilliant strategy, going for that quick storm, going for the quick charge, getting that economic advantage, and getting the tech advantage, having such a good read on what Time was doing, because Time opened up with the Raven, he's rather passive. I think ShoWTimE had all the information he could possibly wish for. I love everything he did, and I felt that ShoWTimE was pretty far ahead, but Time had some great army movement. When he took the high ground on Kairos, he suddenly took control of that ramp, he left the Widow Mines, and at that point I'm like, wow, suddenly it's 3 base against 3 base, and this is not all that great anymore for ShoWTimE. But then we had a really cute little dance in the main base of ShoWTimE where those 2 High Templars bought so much time. They dropped the storm, they got picked up again, they got dropped again, and I think at that point Time just started to bleed out a lot of units, and ShoWTimE started to take control of it again. And like you said, in the end, Time got caught there with his pants down. He did not want to fight at all in the middle of the map.
ShoWTimE knew exactly where to go and what to do here. I think like a lot of players, they would have been like, whew, all right, time to catch a breath. Time to catch my breath here for a second. I finally defended everything you were throwing at me, but not ShoWTimE. He was like, well, I finally defended. It might have been his Observer that's allowed him to see this army kind of retreating. He's like, I'll catch you in the middle of the map. I've got Blink. I've got High Templars, the one Immortal, some Disruptor catches him, and yeah, Time wasn't ready in that moment.
We'll see. I feel like out of the 3 games so far, Time definitely had the most success with the strategy where he was the aggressor, right? It seems like the defensive builds are not really working out for our Chinese Terran, so let's see if he's going to be a little more aggressive here on this big map. Thunderbird on the left top side, representing Nilby. It is our Chinese Terran, Time.
His opponent is looked absolutely fantastic. It's great to see him back at the top in the reds. And in the southeast, he hails from Germany and plays for Team Makers. It is ShoWTimE.
I think ShoWTimE made a very strong case for himself in the previous game when it comes down to his opponent giving him a lot of time. No pun intended, guys.
It's impossible to stay away from that word. Like,
he will absolutely capitalize on it. Like, I love all the information he gained himself, or he gathered rather, like throughout the Stalkers, the War Prism, stuff like that. And he went for a rather unusual opening, super fast Storm. Like, I know a lot of people are like, just get Storm and you win. But it's really hard to rush into Storm with a lot of builds, especially at this high level, right? These players are so good.
Yeah.
They will punish you if you're too greedy. But ShoWTimE gathered all the information he needed to make those calls. And like I said, man, I love what Time did on King's Cove. I like how aggressive he was. I like how he forced ShoWTimE to be the defender for once. And that's when he had by far and away the most success. Even when he ran into his stasis with his aggressive build, he was still able to just win the game there. So give us some more of that.
This was a weird one, though. Like, he didn't feel like he was supposed necessarily to finish the game at this point, but he had some really good micro, and definitely some things added up well in his favor.
Maybe not win the game, but if you get a Nexus and 10 probes there, you put yourself in an absolutely phenomenal spot, right? It's just that he was aggressive with the Liberator, he was aggressive with the Widow Mines on the other side of the map, and I would like to see a little more of that from Time, because I believe he's such a fast player. His multitasking is so incredibly good. And sure, ShoWTimE's defense is excellent, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of these tosses are simply a little too good that you can't just sit back and then be like, well, I'm going to make one scary push and I hope it works. It's like, no, these guys are so good at capitalizing the freedom you give them.
Interesting, keeping the probe out on the map. ShoWTimE went for a scout and he saw the command center and the timing on the barracks. He knew that this was a very standard opener. He chooses to stay out on the map instead of going home. So we'll see if he actually goes for a follow-up scout or if there's anything proxied here in a second. That would be definitely a late proxy if he were, but I think it's just going to be a follow-up scout here to try and see that factory, the timing on it and everything.
The Twilight opening by ShoWTimE, that gives me the idea we're going to see something very similar to what we saw in Game 1. If you guys forgot, that's of course the Blink Stalker opening with a lot of gateways, a lot of Zealots, but obviously just a very defensive setup at first. And we'll see if Time is going to switch things up. All right, he's going to produce a couple of mines with a reactor as well. This could be one of those crazy double Widow Mine drop openings, right? There's multiple openings with Terrans where you go up to 6 or even 8 mines. And I really like that playstyle against Blink Stalkers.
How about the Dark Shrine here?
No, not yet.
It's always bad?
Not always bad. It's risky.
But
I mean,
yeah, a lot of Terrans, they're going to Raven.
Yeah, I just don't think it's necessary. I think ShoWTimE has shown us that he can win the longer games. So I don't think he needs to make a crazy call where it's like, okay, I'm going to open up with a Dark Shrine and I hope to do a lot of damage. Like, no, just trust on your ability to play the longer macro games. It has been working out for him so far. This is a big map. He's going to get a couple of observers start. He's going to control the map with Blink Stalkers. And let's see how good his defense is going to be against the potential Widow Mine. What a great scout, by the way. Scouting 4 mines. That's awesome.
And Reaper did catch the probe that was in the middle of the map.
I think he tried to damage the SCVs
Time he goes for a third command center on location here. He's feeling very confident. And that was just right after the hallucinated Phoenix flew across the map. So he knows that there's not going to be a quick scout right behind this. I mean, it can be dangerous, though. We've seen in the past a Widow Mine drop that was defended and then Blink Stalkers counter-attacking immediately across the map. So he needs to be careful not to overextend with this and to still not underestimate the potential counter-attack of ShoWTimE.
Yeah. The most important thing here for this Widow Mine drop, guys, is not necessarily the amount of probes that Time kills, but can he keep the Widow Mines and the medevac alive? Because if you keep it alive, you force Protoss to stay at home. There's no Stargate this game, matey. Like, it's a good try. But this is very, very important. Like, he's actually going to go in, I think, pretty deep. There's all the Stalkers here, though. This is a crazy move by Time. He's going to burrow all of these mines. So, yeah, okay, he got a Stalker there. That's actually pretty good. Because Blink isn't done yet. That's multiple. No, one probe. I mean, he's buying a lot of time for himself, which is nice. But it's important that he doesn't lose everything, though. At least he won't lose the medevac, Todd.
Yeah. I guess cup helpful, huh?
I think
that's every single Widow Mine, though.
2 probes and
Does
a Stalker.
ShoWTimE counter-attack? That's the big question. Because you can, like, if you go across the map now and then there's a follow-up Widow Mine drop and you have everything out on the map, it's a disaster.
Yeah, that's a ballsy move that ShoWTimE just made, but it could be the right one. Since there is no Warp Prism, I don't think he's going to win. Even a Liberator can really hurt. Obviously, a defensive Warping can take care of it. There is a tank, though, and I'm very curious to see where is this tank.
There's 2 tanks here.
Oh, okay. Well, then I kind of like what Time is going for himself here.
And I think he may have been anticipating the possibility for this to be happening when Marine spots the move out from the Stalkers there. Well, a lot of gateways being made on the other side. And I like the choice of the double forge. I mean, it's one of those maps where the bases are kind of close together there.
This is very annoying. ShoWTimE has no money right now. He can't warp in any units. He's got no Stalkers here. This Liberator is absolutely going to bring the pain. And I think that Time actually has a strong start this game. This is so much better already than what we saw.
Oh, he recalled?
Yeah, I mean,
in the main base.
Because he had no money. It's very annoying when you get harassing, you have no money. It's like,
what the hell is that Liberator doing?
That's the anti-F2 stall, Todd. Like, so if you F2, it will still stay there. It's very nice. I do this with my observers. ShoWTimE too, apparently.
Yeah. That F2 is a little bit addicting, isn't it?
It absolutely is. You know, you have that little voice like, just press F2, man. What's the worst thing that could happen? Before you know it, you have no control groups anymore.
Yeah.
You're like, ah, what happened to me? I used to have 3.
That's what it was designed for. Not having any more control groups for your army.
I do that with war prisms as well sometimes, you know, when you have a prism besides the main base, but you can't use it at that point. Just put it in warp in mode. It will stay in location, no matter how many times you have to.
That's a very quick transition into Robo here, by the way, compared to the other games, right? Because it's been like a little bit more passive. He kind of stayed at home, and there is no risk of like a big 2-base push like before. He saw the quick third, so he's like, well, I already got to adjust.
No, you're excellent observation there, and I think it makes total sense because he also knows that Time obviously is playing a very strong economic game, and we often talk about the strength of the Blinkstalkers and the Zealots in this matchup, and it is incredibly powerful, but if the armies become a lot bigger, you know, that strength wears off a little bit, and you really want to get a more beefy and powerful army eventually. So ShoWTimE knows that this is going to be a longer game unless he would try to all in, but he's probably thinking like, I don't want to all in right now, and that seems like it's probably not going to work, so he's just going to focus on transitioning as well. And that's maybe good news for us, Todd, because that could provide us with a very nice long macro game.
ShoWTimE finally sniped that one Liberator that was on his side of the map. That was nicely done. And we have 5 tanks out for time, and he's getting a 6th one. So whereas in a lot of cases for Terrans, you know, they would just grab like 3 to be safe, and then they'll just go into a lot of bio. Time is actually sticking to a very heavy tank production here, as we see him drop down 2 additional factories as well.
That's pretty crazy, man. Like playing bio against Protoss, we're going triple factory. Special will probably say, that's my build, because Special did do it against Mana. I mean, we had that crazy game on King's Cove with all those tanks, and that's a triple factory. So then it's going to create a couple of very interesting scenarios where normally you can A-move as Protoss, and you'd be like, oh, tanks? Yeah, tanks are good, but if I can just get a couple Zealots on top of them, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
But if the tank count is, instead of 3 or 4, it's suddenly 8 or 9, you got to be a little more cautious how you engage with these ground armies.
ShoWTimE just threw above those additional factories, but I don't know if he was looking. Like, you need to be clicking on it, because otherwise you might think it was something different. But he should have been able to see, or at least if he checked, he saw that it was factories. One of the best adjustments you could do against this is, I think, maybe drop down, maybe even one more Robo, but just in general, go into a lot of Immortals. They're the unit against tanks.
Yeah, the Immortals are obviously super good against tanks, but I think it can get a little bit complicated if they have like 9 or 10 tanks, right? Because if there is a couple of ghosts in the mix as well, Immortals are great, but they need to get in range. Tanks obviously have bigger range, so we'll see where this goes. ShoWTimE just wants to slow down time for a little bit. I'm actually not sure what I would find ideal against a Terran play with like 9 or 10 tanks.
10 Immortals. Attack move, game over.
And Stargate is going to be the tech of choice here for ShoWTimE. I don't hate it. Like, I think these battles are really funny because, yes, Immortals are the counter to tanks, but you're going to need some really good engagements as well. This command set is taking a lot of damage, but that's very Marine heavy, by the way. You got to be careful with these forward stims because the Marines will melt against these Colossi.
It feels like ShoWTimE right now is very comfortable in this game, to be honest. Like, he's like, well, you want to play slow, you want to turtle? Like, have you ever heard of HazuOps? He's my mentor. You're about to learn a hard lesson, my friend.
Obviously, I think War Prism play is incredibly powerful against heavy tank play, because often if they make this many tanks, they'll bring out almost all their units to the other side of the map. So if you could then sneak a Prism in, it will truly hurt the Terran player. Tanks are a lot slower than Bio as well. And in the end, like, all you need against this army of time is one amazing engagement. Get a couple Zealots in from behind, get on top of these tanks. I don't know if this is the moment though, with that Planetary Fortress there as well. I'm not sure if I'm feeling it.
The Immortals? Oh my god.
I mean, there is a lot of bio missing here, actually, so maybe it's going to be good enough. These Archons are doing a really good job, but the bio shows up now as well. Don't forget about that Planetary. I don't know, ShoWTimE. I find this very, very ambitious. He did take care of most of the tanks, but that's going to be pretty much all.
Pick up. No, it doesn't pick up that one last Colossus with the War Prism. Now ShoWTimE's on the run, and Time with a massive supply lead here. This is like a dream scenario. You go for a lot of tanks, you're sitting on your side of the map, then somebody attacks into you.
Yeah, I mean, I love how quick that bio turned around, right? I felt like, what are these Usain Bolt, Marines and Marauders? They were on the other side of the map, and the battle starts. Suddenly they showed up. It was a really good call, though, by Time to bring those Marines and Marauders back. Otherwise, he would have been in trouble. I believe we've got that Prism on the top side of the map. Trying to fly in. Yeah. Can
I just say I'd like to praise the patience of ShoWTimE and how he doesn't rush too early in against these tanks.
This is actually
goes for the fight.
Yep.
I mean, like, keep him back at home though.
It's deceiving, like I said. Sometimes you're like, oh, these tanks are really exposed, let's go for it. And then suddenly Bio runs in from every angle. But on top of that, I think the best thing there, the real safety cushion, is of course that planetary fortress. Because you can't A-move there. Because he's never going to kill that planetary if he doesn't have like 5 immortals in the mix, which he simply didn't have.
Recalls the Prism out. I just saw him warp in some DTs actually.
Yeah, there are a couple turrets here and there. How many
in the middle of the map.
How many turrets do we have out?
It's going
That's 6. Okay.
I think this might be it. Like, time is like, well, I got enough. I got a lot of tanks here. It's time for me to push onto that base. And I mean, if you kill the latest base that somebody took in a game like this, where it's like very high econ, you're doing something right, and you're going to be in a pretty good spot. And I think you might be able to force the fight here. Oh, I love this. ShoWTimE's warping in on the left-hand side of this. A lot of Zealots to come in from behind.
Yeah, this can actually be the fight that ShoWTimE needed. ShoWTimE had that Xelnaga Watchtower as well that gave him so much vision. I think this is going to be it. We've got DTs on the right side, Zealots coming in from the left.
2 more Colossi are about to reinforce into this. ShoWTimE needs to wait a little bit until he can regroup with these. All of these Archons have taken so much damage already. He's finally going to go for it. There's 4 Colossi. Guardian Shield is being used. Charge Lots are going to stream in from behind as well. Can ShoWTimE get the cleanup? It looks like yes.
Those Zealots from the left side were awesome. The DTs from the right side were awesome as well. And how that first fight didn't really go that well.
Look at the supply now. ShoWTimE on the counter-attack.
This was a crazy good fight. I think he's still going to be a tiny bit careful near a planetary fortress. Especially because Colossus, they are very flimsy. He's getting Shadow Strike as well. Fear Dragon is jumping up and down on the top floor of this building. As we could potentially see.
Archons, so.
As we could see some Dark Templars blinking around eventually.
Wow. And ShoWTimE actually being a little bit hesitant now after the attack that he had last time.
I mean, that previous fight was fantastic, but that was the best engagement he's ever going to have.
No, I mean the first time that he pushed.
Yeah, of course. But fighting near a planetary is so much harder, right?
Yeah. He's still going for it.
Yeah, he's going to get for
There's
it.
the repair. The planetary fortress holding strong for now. It's finally going to go down, but the tanks are kind of shielded away from any damage there. As ShoWTimE will pull back, still has a supply lead.
I love how he's building. Okay, he's floating over. What is that? That's another command center. That was actually burning. Okay, he's going to morph this one into a planetary, I guess. Time is starting to run a little low on money, though, Todd. He's been losing a lot of SCVs, and right now he feels kind of broke at 160 supply. So losing that planetary, losing that income that he so desperately needs right now is very painful.
Look at the production tab.
Yeah.
He's getting everything at once. Storming at it on. Shields upgrades. That one Zealot every single time doing the job of spotting the incoming attack.
Yeah, Time really walked into a trap there, right, on the left side of the map. ShoWTimE just had too much vision for too long. He had way too much time to get the absolute dream engagement against all these tanks.
And, I mean, where does this go from here for Time? Like, it feels like anytime he moves out, that could be happening again. I think he might just wait until he's maxed out, got a lot of upgrades, and ideally have a decent amount of ghosts ready with the MP, which right now he kind of has. ShoWTimE, I don't think you want to attack there like last time.
But I mean, he does have a War Prism, right?
Look at how many tanks there are in that location.
Oh my god, yeah. What is this?
Yeah, like you don't attack into this.
This macro bio thought. I don't even know anymore. This War Prism will get picked up this time. There are a couple of DTs being very annoying. Command Center taking some damage. I mean, ShoWTimE is just kind of containing Time right now. But like you said, I think Time's best choice is like, all right, get your dream army, buddy, and then let's see if you can get a much better fight. Don't forget, this time, or the next time rather, he is going to have 3-3 upgrades. Previously, he didn't have 3-3, and he should have a few more Ghosts as well. So I think there is still some hope for Time, but he's going to need a much, much better fight than the previous one. Oh no, those SCVs, okay.
If Time really wants to take things slow and kind of turtle, then that's when ShoWTimE's going to drop down the Stargates and
he already has one.
Just go for air, maybe add a mothership in there. Carriers, making carriers useful skills. What is going on here is move commanding a lot of these units. ShoWTimE will just take the fight in the first place, and then as the tank finally gets close enough and start shooting, he'll pull back.
Blink DTs, they're gonna blink across these minerals, and that's gonna be kind of cool. And this is gonna be super annoying for Time to deal with, because Time is broke, man. He has lost so many SCVs, 160 supply. He's losing way more right now. Look at these Dark Templars. Go say goodbye to this mineral line. One tank is not gonna be enough, by the way. These Marines, man, look at the +3 Dark Templars are ridiculous. What was that, like 3 hits for a tank? EMP, they dodged that one as well. Well done by ShoWTimE. He's in his element. He's feeling it right now, Todd.
Yeah, and we see Stargates being made now in the main base. He realizes that that left-hand side base might not be breakable from Time. So he's like, well, you want to take that side of the map? I'll just out-expand you, transition yet again into air, +1 air weapon starting now, Fleet Beacon. I'm surprised there is no more Prisms that he's using, because I feel like big warpings inside of the main base could be good, but right now ShoWTimE's already maxed. He might choose to sack some units through being a little bit more aggressive.
I mean, look at the work deficit. 85 probes against 35 SCVs on the side of Time. ShoWTimE mining 3-4 times as much right now as his Terran opponent. And Time, I mean, yeah, we tell him, like, we'd love to see him max out, but from what, right? He just doesn't simply have the money right now. He is trying to secure that base at 9 o'clock, but ShoWTimE is doing a really good job at still shaving off a couple of units. ShoWTimE doesn't need to make crazy moves right now, but as long as he keeps picking up a couple of units here and there.
He's sniping tanks with DTs right under this. He came in from the other side and sniped a whole bunch of tanks with blink DTs. That was sick. He knew there was no turrets.
I mean, he can make crazy moves. He can warp in 8 Dark Templars at a time and go
blink in the middle of the tanks.
Oh, look at these medevacs. They're all so low on HP as well. One medevac actually has a lot of units. The Dark Templar harass will simply not stop. ShoWTimE really is putting on a clinic here of how to deal with a very defensive Terran opponent.
Yeah, Time is being stretched apart. ShoWTimE dancing left, dancing right. Every single time attacking where the tanks are not. And Time might be running out of patience here. He's moving out.
What's the medevac count at? Because we saw like 4 medevacs, but 3 of them are super low.
All right, here we go. No.
ShoWTimE might disengage. What is he gonna go for? I would love to see more DTs, man. Yes, there you go. 7 more blink Dark Templars, because that's pretty much what it is, guys. They're gonna just harass for now. They're gonna do even more economic damage.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh, he blinks on the planetary. Come and take a look at that. He's gonna try to kill it. He's getting very close. The DPS of all these Dark Templars is very high, and he's gonna get it as well, despite the fact that it was being repaired by so many SCVs. And sure, a lot of these DTs go down, but now the Zealots will get on top of these tanks as well. Nope, EMP instead. I mean, there was a Storm, a very defensive one. 12 Zealots.
I'll throw one in.
Yeah, I mean, ShoWTimE's got still a lot of money. He's running a tiny bit low on minerals, so he has to be a little bit careful. But I love what he's doing. He is keeping Time at 140, 150 supply.
And finally, we see Immortals being made. I mean, ShoWTimE, he's got all of his options open here. If you wanted to go for carriers, you could have done that. But he's like, you know what? I think Immortals are going to help a lot against this, even though there's a bunch of ghosts. He's kind of reduced that count a little bit. There's only 3 ghosts now and 7 tanks, so he's reduced the count of both pretty nicely.
Man, that Zelnaga Watchtower has been so freaking good, right? Time will finally move out, and he's actually going to get in range.
ShoWTimE's going to counter-attack.
Okay, we'll see how this goes. Those Immortals, good job there by ShoWTimE really rallying those Immortals.
He has so many bases everywhere that it's going to be harder for Time to shut down the full economy of ShoWTimE as quickly, and then you can just keep on spamming DTs towards this army as well. Like if Time misses 1 scan or 2, and if he's not as consistent.
Oh, well, that's a juicy Storm as well. And he picks up the High Templar, lands another Storm from the high ground. That one may be a little less good. And even though this Terran army is doing some work, guys, the Protoss is just absolutely ravaging everything on the other side of the map. And don't forget about those 18 gateways. GG is called. ShoWTimE will advance to the semifinals of WCS Summer. And it's great to see him there, Todd.
Back at his level of old, back at the top of the WCS circuit scene here. Fantastic performance from the German Protoss. And solid throughout. This is what you would expect from him. But Time, I gotta say, I was pretty impressed with him, and I feel like once again he's gonna come back stronger. He keeps on getting better and better, tournament after tournament. It's just not his time yet.
No, I'm with you. I love the run of the Chinese Terran in this tournament, and I can only echo everything that Ben said before. In my eyes, Time is the best Chinese player we've seen in a very, very long time. But this time it wasn't enough. Let's hear from the man who just played an awesome PvT as he's on stage with Sue.
Thank you very much, Rotterdam. Congratulations, ShoWTimE. This month has been a roller coaster for you. You started off with, again, dislocating that shoulder, Home Story Cup not going the way you wanted, and now at this WCS event, secured top 4, which is, again, the highest WCS result you've had this year. So, I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, it is really amazing, because I really needed the WCS points as well for my BlizzCon chances. So now I think I'm in a pretty decent spot if I perform somewhat good at Montreal. So yeah, I'm really happy about it.
Well, this series, it was really, really amazing PvT that you showed us. I want to start by talking about Acropolis, because it did turn really, really back and forth. Time kept showing relentless aggression, but you seemed really comfortable dealing with it. So are you just pretty okay dealing with that style?
Well, the Acropolis game was kind of tough because I kept losing my bases over and over. Like after I lost my third base, I pretty much knew I was in trouble. So from there on, I kind of relied on him overextending or B taking good trades and relying on my upgrades. But yeah, I wasn't feeling in control in that game at all, so I was quite surprised I won in the end and really happy about it as well.
Well, now with this victory, you're moving forward, and top 4 is great, but of course, I'm sure you're hungry to make it to the grand finals. But it's going to be very difficult because it's either Neeb or Serral. Neeb, you have a lot of history with a lot of amazing PvP series we've seen between you two, and Serral, I mean, everyone knows he's the best right now. So what are your thoughts between those two?
I don't really want to face either, to be honest. But I kind of feel like Neeb is actually going to take out Serral, because he kind of has his number for some reason. And I think his PvC is like probably the best in the world. So if he shows up, I think he's going to take out Serral. And I would prefer playing Neeb as well, because my PvC is not as good as his, so I don't think if he loses, I don't think I can take out Serral. So I would prefer the PvP.
Well, we'll see if the stars align and if that happens. But for now, congratulations on securing that semifinal. Kalaris, back to you guys.
That's right, Tommo holds on sturdy there and is able to get himself the victory. Moving on into the round of 4. Unfortunately for Time, it was definitely not his moment to come. Maybe later on here, maybe if he attends Montreal, we shall see later. Thank you very much, guys. As for now, of course, I have Fear Dragon as well as Muslim here to get things going. Guys, ShoWTimE looked absolutely fantastic when it came to his holds and then even the counter aggression that followed through.
It was really, really stellar holds, and I like the mix-up between game 1, 2, and 3, just kind of changing up a little bit of his tech choices and everything. It was so much fun to just watch some of those engagements where he was able to make miraculous holds happen. I think it was game number 3, it was on a Thunderbird. Some of those fights were just, I could rewatch those like 8, 9, 10 times and still find new little things he was doing.
ShoWTimE's the full package, man. Like, he really is.
Yeah.
A long time ago, he was all about defending all the time and just being very, very stable and consistent in that regard. But now he can also attack, and that makes him a way, way scarier player. And I got to give some credit to Time as well, though. He really pushed him to the limit. A lot of the pro gamers in the back room, they were doing the thing where it's like, Time's dead for sure, man, he's dead. But he still kept on coming back. He still kept on fighting. So this was a real good test for ShoWTimE's PvT, and he passed the test. He never faltered at any point in the game.
There's a running theme here with our pro gamers saying, someone's dead, someone's dead. It's like, well, I'm glad they're not commentating, because like, if they were calling the games this early, it's not going to go well for them.
We'll save that for home story, Cup. But I do want to actually give a little bit of credit also to Time, because especially the first 2 games, I was incredibly impressed with how Time was playing. He was doing some really, really nice aggression. And of course, by taking one of those games, he really showcased a lot of his skill. And even though we did just see some big disruptor hits right there, his splits versus those disruptors were so on point.
Yeah.
Occasionally he would still take the hits, because when you suddenly get to like 5, 6 disruptor shots all at once, it's pretty hard to deal with. But he did a great job.
And speaking of kind of AoE damage, a little bit more coming in here. But previously in that last engagement, ShoWTimE even just blinking away from Widowmine shots once again while just poising himself to be able to go for the kind of engagement. Nice Widowmine.
The main thing I wanted to talk about Time that I was super impressed with this series was his Widowmine usage, actually, especially on this map. The Widowmine in the middle, then he was baiting that Phoenix to come over the 2 Widowmines that he was hiding.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just very, very clever and intelligent play. Not only is he fast, but he was very smart, and he's a player that we're absolutely going to see in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, speaking of fast, we'll later on get to show what ShoWTimE's capable of when we're looking at our Tobii eye tracker, because me and Fear Dragon have been spying out some of the moves from that. We won't get to show one specific one, but we got another one to show you later on. Of course, big storms coming in here, and this was one of the engagements where ShoWTimE's eyes were darting everywhere, Fear Dragon. This was a crazy fight.
ShoWTimE looks at new targets and during these fights faster than I think my actual APM is, which isn't very high, but it's still very, very.
I was about to say that's not saying much, Ravi, but oof. But no, like
he looks at least 10 things per minute.
He's super good. He's super calculated, and he's got like that beautiful posture as well, right?
Yeah.
Like you watch him play, and he's just a machine. Coming on to the final game here in Thunderbird, Time whipped out the mass tank strategy, and ShoWTimE just masterclassed at how to deal with it. Here it looked a little bit bad. His supply drops down to 110, but he got right back into the game, and from that point when he like flanks on the left side, the army just demolished it, engulfed it. And then the Blink DTs came out. He knows how to play when he's ahead.
So the Blink DTs were so great, and a nice little way to bypass the mineral patches over there for some of that harassment and everything. But even some of these fights, so I know I was actually asking you a little bit about this, Ben, when the games were going on, but just that tank style that Time was trying to go for over here, where you don't really get a Vikings or anything to try and deal with the Colossus. You're trying to focus fire them down, but you were talking about how that sort of style really, really struggles when a Protoss player is able to find those kind of flanking positions.
Yeah, you talked about it. Like a lot of the players have been using it recently, such as Special utilized it and to great effect as well. And I even spoke to Manor in the back room, and he said, I think this is the future of what Terran should do. But whenever I try that stuff, as soon as Protoss come from more than one angle, I'm like, man, these tanks aren't really doing a good job. And we saw that the army got demolished over on the left side. But until then, he was holding on pretty strong. It was a great series.
Yeah, it definitely was. For a lot of ShoWTimE's move, Surgery does come to mind. There was a lot of, like very, very precise movements going on during that.
Early game, mid game, late game, ShoWTimE had it all. Like even the way that he was just deflecting the drops late game. And when we got onto the eye tracker, the fact that he's looking at the minimap like every 2 seconds kind of thing.
Yeah, let's take a look.
It's very Stefano-esque, honestly.
Yeah, let's take a look at that, of course. As we did have one moment that I did want to show. Unfortunately, our video was a little bit laggy with it, but it was insane. But here is the moment that we want to take.
1, 2, 3 looks at the minimap, 4 looks at the minimap.
Bear
5
in
looks,
mind,
6
this is on
looks,
half-time
7
speed.
This is on
looks.
half-time speed. Yeah.
Hold on. 9 looks at the minimap. 10 looks at the minimap. I think it's almost only been like 10 seconds or something.
Yeah.
It's actually, he's looking at it about once a second.
And I mean, guys, again, this is in 50% speed. So that is 10 seconds where you looked at the minimap 10 times while looking at everything else and macroing and microing. So he's a beast, man. I think this is like actually the best ShoWTimE that I've seen in a long time. And the fact that he just came off like an injury, and he talked on Twitter about how he just can't win anymore. Then he comes here and he makes a top 4 in like the most
Now
flawless...
full-time speed.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, okay. This is what you want to see, guys. Like, look at
Just what is going on?
This is so nuts.
Guys, you should have some of the engagements that we witnessed as well whilst he was like prioritizing movements like 4 times a second, just switching his view as to where he's looking at the what.
It blows my mind. Actually, speaking of the one clip that I know we wanted to show, that was actually during an engagement, one of the other cool things I wanted to note about that, he's doing the micro, he's looking at units that are dying and everything, he looks at the minimap during the fight. I'm how on earth do you have the willpower to do something
The
like
brain capacity to like cognizant of the minimap as well as every little motion that's going on in a fight. It's mental.
You guys have heard about it, like tunnel visioning. Like you can't do that in StarCraft with anything. Like while the fight's going on, that is a very important aspect, but you have to keep everything else up as well because your opponent, he's probably just as quick as you are, so he's going to try and work a way around you. But ShoWTimE just utilizing that he's got his priorities in order and has a very good way about going about the game.
Yeah, great stuff to see. That, for me, watching some of ShoWTimE's eye tracking stuff has been the most impressive that we have seen all tournament in my mind. Is there any way to disagree with that? I think it's been very impressive.
We haven't seen Serral's yet, though.
Ooh, have we not?
I don't believe so.
Oh, well, maybe we shall see in a few moments' time. As, of course, ShoWTimE has moved on to the semi-final. Dimauer finds himself there in the round of 4 once again. And now, one of the biggest fixtures here in round of 8 history when it comes to WCS as a whole. Neeb is going to go up against ShoWTimE. These two gentlemen between them have won more WCSs in the current iteration of WCS than everybody else put together. Ah! That's my analysis.
This is beautiful for so many reasons. You have the champion of 2017 against the champion of 2018. You actually have the pinnacle of North America against the pinnacle of Europe, and now they're about to clash.
Yes.
And the thing is, like, I know, Ravi, you've been saying that you think Neeb has a really good shot, but you're not the only one. He actually has a winning record against Serral, which is really cool. And even when Serral has been, like, impenetrable, Neeb's always been the guy to find the chink in the chain, and this is going to be a true clash of titans.
Their combined MMR peak is higher than Olympus Mons, and that's the tallest peak in the entire universe. Not universe, solar system. There you go. What am I talking about? Universe would be impressive. But beyond that, it is insane. The spectacle that we are about to witness here between these two players. And I know that a lot of people are in the Serral camp, but there is one certain person here that's very much so in the Neeb camp.
Well, the
Theme
thing
Dragon. You.
Yeah. No, this is honestly going to be such an awesome and epic match. Whether, it's so funny because everyone seems to have a different opinion on this, but
Yeah.
everyone has a strong opinion. Thermal was saying, this is going to be a 3-0. And I'm like, for who? Is like, I don't know. It could go either way, but it's going to be a 3-0 no matter who wins. Obviously, I'm heavily on the Neeb side. I know I've met and talked with a lot of pro players who are saying, no, Cyril is still the God King. He is still going to win this. I love how impassioned everyone is. This is like a political campaign right now. You're either on Neeb's side or you're on Cyril's side, and there's no in between.
This is so hard to call. Like, Cyril has dominated for so long, and he is the greatest foreigner of all time. Like, nobody
Yep.
can say that or can say
100%.
otherwise.
Yeah.
But going up against Neeb, when you talk about who are the 3 best foreigners right now, Cyril's name is mentioned. Neeb is definitely up there too, and it's probably Raynor as the top 3. And
Yeah.
right now, like, whoever wins this match, they have a real good shot of taking down this whole thing.
Yeah, they definitely do. And we just heard it in the previous interview as well with ShoWTimE when presented with the idea of who do you want to play against? The whole answer is very difficult to come up with. He kind of almost has to pick Neeb when it comes to his PvP, but he knows that that would be a massive uphill struggle in itself potentially too.
Also, to ShoWTimE's credit as well, he was specifically saying, and I totally agree with this, that Neeb's PvZ is one of the best in the
said
world.
best
And he
in
was
the
saying, actually not one of the best. He was saying
Yes.
it was the best. And I don't think that's necessarily the case for all of the matchups for Neeb. I don't think that, for example, ShoWTimE would probably say that Neeb has the best PvP in the world or the best PvT in the world, but his PvZ is absolutely stellar.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Time now as we go to a short break, but when we return, the 2 biggest names in foreign StarCraft will clash head-to-head here in the round of 8 of WCS Summer.